Peace, everyone. Okay, I don't want to waste a lot of time. I want to get right into this because I want to try to get everything I want to say in within 15 minutes. Okay, now I'm going to be picking up where I left off. The last two videos, I talked about the mother god and I talked about the tomb and the womb. And so I'm going to be going into more detail about the womb. And I'm going to start off with reading Genesis 1 2. Okay? It says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." Now I'm going to be focusing on three words in that one scripture: darkness, spirit, and waters. Okay? Now, from what I came to understand, you're really talking about the womb in creation. That's what the scripture is talking about. Um, a woman's body is actually duplicating the womb of the universe, because we mimic the universe, or we have everything that's in the universe we have in us, and nature, we duplicate nature as well. So we duplicate the universe. I always like to call the universe the yoni verse, and that's because the word yoni means womb. So really, beginning of this Bible is really talking about what's going on at the womb of creation. I'm talking about the mother. Now, a womb is really symbolic of darkness. That's why sometimes in my videos I'll say I extend darkness to you, because I'm extending growth to you. Think about it like this: when a man plants a sperm or seed into a woman's vagina, he's putting seed into darkness, into a dark place, and her womb is going to grow a child there. It's the same thing in nature. When you put a seed into the ground, into the soil, into darkness, it's going to grow a plant there. So we mimic nature. Okay. Now, that's what darkness really represents. It's representing something being grown there. Now, when you look at even Adam and Eve is really representing dark matter, because the word Adam is really ATOM. Everybody knows that I'm into phonetics. I follow phonetics. So ATOM, which is electrons, protons, neutrons. You're talking about matter, and then Eve is symbolically representing darkness, because what is evening? It's when it gets dark outside. It's when the sun goes down. So put Adam and Eve together, and you're talking about dark matter. Okay. Now Adam called Eve. He said he named her Eve because she was the mother of all living, which suggests that he named her Eve because darkness is the mother of all living, because Eve is symbolic of darkness. And I'm going to go more into that. Now, I said I was going to talk about the Matrix, the movie, but I don't really have time. But consider that, to say that we are in the Matrix is from what I came to understand, it's symbolic that we are in the womb. We breathe water in, even though we don't realize it. Water, through the water cycle is going through stages, um, and we don't realize that water is always in the air. We breathe it in. That's how we breathe. The sun is made up of primarily hydrogen. And what's hydro? Water. Okay, so that's how we're living in the womb, because we're breathing in water. Now, water and fertility and the sun is the whole reason, really, why Christians celebrate Easter, because you're really celebrating fertility. You're celebrating life, really. Um, or you could call it, yeah, you are celebrating resurrection, because the mother's womb represents the tomb, and the womb is the same thing. But I talked about that in my last video, so I don't want to go too deep into that. But water, infertility, and sun, because Easter is really Ishtar. Easter comes from the word Ishtar, which is a fertility god. Um, You could even tie it into, there's a hieroglyphic that's a picture of a little rabbit in water. Okay? Rabbits represent fertility. Everybody knows they was bumping like rabbits. So rabbits represent fertility. It's symbolic for fertility. And the Hebrew, I'm sorry, the hieroglyphic with a rabbit and water, the transliteration means to be or to exist. And ironically, that is how you say Jehovah in the Bible. Well, I'm sorry, Jehovah means to be or to exist in the Bible. That's the definition of Jehovah. Also, Hova is relative to Hava, which is the same as saying Hua. This is all of these things are really talking about Eve, because Eve is also was also known as Hua. You can research that on your own. In the Quran, they're calling Allah He and Him. The word for Him and He is Hua. So that's the name for Eve. You think about that. Now, staying on track, we're still talking about the womb here, but I want to go into what the darkness is in the womb. Now, I'm going to tie it into water too, dark water, because water is chemically H2O. I looked up the number 20 in Hebrew, which would be H2O. Because Hebrew, when you look up the words, it only gives you the first letter. So it literally says H2O. But the word there is, for H2O in Hebrew, is melon. Melon. Now, of course, we know melon means fruit. Um, or melon is a watermelon, which still tie in melon into water. But you could even say the melon is the fruit of the womb. But anyway, melon, phonetically, you're saying the root word of melanin. Coincidence? Melon means Melan, means black or dark. Melanin actually ties into the whole 666 thing. If you look up melanin and carbon, you will see that those two words have been interchanged with each other. Melanin and carbon. Carbon is known as the building block of life. If you look up the etymology of carbon, it says it means heat, fire, burn. It also means Krishna, which is a Hindu god, root word of Christ, and Krishna means black. So it's telling you right there that carbon means black and melon means black, and this word H2O is melon. My theory, you're talking about black water, dark matter. That's that's really what you're talking about. This is one of the reasons why I know that the Bible has a lot to do with Egypt, because science comes out of Egypt. Whether you want to accept that or not is your business. You should research it. But because science goes into chemistry, and chem, which is the root word of chemit, means black. But chem, that's how you get the word chemistry, is related to alchemy. It's all tied into Egypt, which the Bible actually has a lot of science in it. In astrology, esoteric knowledge, there's a lot of nuggets in the Bible. Okay, now I want to tie in the dark water or the melanin or the carbon into spirit, because water is actually relative to spirit. How do I know that? Because in the hieroglyphics, there's a phrase that says to the spirit of, and it's a picture of water, and it's a picture of the symbol for the Ka, Ka, which the Ka is like this. It's a, I think it's the touchdown symbol. So to the spirit of is a picture of water and the Ka, That's how I know that water is relative to spirit. Besides that, like I said earlier about the sun, is made primarily of hydrogen, which is water, and the sun is energy. The sun is pure energy, which is spirit. Energy is relative to spirituality. Okay, so going into more into the the Bible and the Quran, they mention a lot in the Quran, which a lot is coming from the word latus, which means to be born or carry. So again, you're talking about the womb. Lotus is phonetically the same as saying lotus, lotus flower, which is if you look up, the Egyptian creation story, it's right there at the beginning. The sun came out of a lotus flower. So lotus, lotus, same thing. Now let's go into this word none, because that's relative to the primordial waters, or the dark waters, or the carbon, or the melanin, which, it depends on how you want to look at it. But now the Catholics, they call those ladies nuns. They all honor Mary. Why? One of the old names for Egypt is Ta Mary. Ironic? Coincidence? You be the judge. Um, the word nun actually means mother, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the nuns wear black. I don't think it's a coincidence that the priests wear black. I don't think it's a coincidence that the judges wear black. I just don't think so. All right, now let's talk about nun, which is in both the Bible and the Quran. But first, I'm going to read what this is just a Wikipedia definition of what Nun is. It says Nun is the oldest of the Egyptian gods and the father of Re, the sun god. So Nun is the father of the sun. They're calling it a father, but whatever. Nun names means primeval waters. Okay, and he represented the waters of chaos out of which Re Atum began creation. Re Atum, Adam. You telling me that Nun made Adam? You're talking about the womb. Okay. Um, when you're talking about a nun, you're talking about nothing. You're talking about a zero. Again, you're talking about a circle, a womb. That's what a nun is. Now, in the Quran, the word nun is transliterated from the word noon, which has to do with the sun. Obviously, which is going back to water. We already talked about that. And then in the Bible, the word nun is Joshua's father in the Old Testament. Who's Joshua? Yeshua. Who's Yeshua? Jesus. Who's Jesus? The Son. The S-U-N, Son. So Nun is the father of sun in the Bible. And in Egyptian mythology, Nun is the father of sun, the literal sun. Coincidence? I think not. Okay, so I'm going to cut this short here. I hope you guys learned something new. I sure did while I was researching. And I always encourage you to study. All right, peace.